This is a Roll to Hit Gaming First Look. In this video, we begin our game showcase. The first look covers components, rules, and setup. It is designed to give you a quick introduction to a game you might have interest in. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. Let's head into the game room for your Roll to Hit Gaming First Look host.
Welcome to Roll to Hit Gaming's first look at the new Dungeon Delving Deck Builder by Renegade Game Studios, Clank with an exclamation point. I'm Chip Crawford, and in this episode we take a look at this game designed by Paul Denner. It plays 2 to 4 players and takes about half an hour to an hour to play. Do you have the swagger to go deep inside the Dragon Queen's mounds of gold and treasure? Let's find out in Clank, a deck building adventure. Woo!
The passages beneath Dragon Keep are the most dangerous territory in all the realm. Only the greatest burglars can sneak in, steal from the dragon, and escape to tell the tale. So naturally, you and your fellow thieves have challenged each other to do just that. Along the way, you'll recruit allies and snatch up extra loot. But one false step, and... careless noise draws the dragon's attention, and each artifact stolen increases its rage. You'd better hope your friends are louder than you, if you want to escape the depths alive. Setup in Clank begins by laying out the game board. Then each player takes 30 Clank cubes and places them in a personal supply in front of them. They also take a pawn of the matching color and a 10-card deck containing the following: 6 burgles, 2 stumbles, 1 sidestep, and 1 scramble. Next, place these tokens around the board as follows. Place the 7 artifacts, valued 5 to 30, face up on the spaces marked with the corresponding numbers. If playing with fewer than 4 players, before placing the artifacts, shuffle them face down and select some at random to exclude from the game. With a 3-player game, return 1 artifact to the box, and with a 2-player game, return 2 artifacts. Next, shuffle the major secrets face down, then place 1 at random on each major secret space. There will be extra major secrets. Return them to the box unseen. Shuffle the minor secrets face down, then place 2 at random on each minor secret space. Place the market items in the market area: 2 master keys, 2 backpacks, and 3 crowns valued 10, 9, and 8. Place the 3 monkey idols on the monkey shrine room. Place the mastery tokens near the top corner of the board, 1 for each player. Place the gold tokens, value 1 and 5, in a bank next to the game board. Place the black dragon marker on the rage track. In a 4-player game, place it on the first space, on a 3-player game in the second, and on a 2-player game, place it on the third space. Place the 24 black dragon cubes in the dragon bag and set the bag next to the game board. Place the Goblin Monster card in reserve next to the game board, along with the piles of Mercenary, Explore, and Secret Tome cards. Shuffle the dungeon deck and deal 6 cards to form the dungeon row face up on the table. If any of those cards have the dragon attack symbol along the right edge, replace them with other cards until none show the symbol. Then, shuffle any replaced cards back into the dragon deck. Leave room next to the dragon deck to form a dragon discard pile. Each player places their pawn just outside the dungeon at the top of the game board, then shuffles their 10-card deck and draws 5 cards from it. The sneakiest player gets to go first, or you may choose randomly. Play will proceed clockwise from there. The first player places 3 Clank cubes of their color in the Clank area. The second player, 2 Clank of their color, and the third and fourth players, if there are any, place 1 Clank of their color and 0 Clank, respectively. You are now ready to begin the game of Clank. Be careful and don't make too much noise. So you want to be a thief. Clank is a deck building game. Each player has their own deck, and building yours up is part of playing the game. You start each of your turns with 5 cards in your hand, and you'll play them all in any order you choose. Most cards will generate resources, of which there are 3 kinds. Skills, which are used to acquire new cards for your deck. Swords, which are used to fight the monsters that infest the dungeon. And boots, which are used to move around the board. Every time you acquire a new card, you put it face up in your discard pile. Whenever you need to draw a card and find your deck empty, you shuffle your discard pile and turn it face down to form a new deck. With each shuffle, your newest cards become part of the bigger and better deck. Each player starts with the same cards in their deck, but they'll acquire different cards during their turn. Because cards can do many different things, each player's deck and strategy will become more and more different as the game unfolds. The terms of the thieving challenge are clear. Everyone must go into the dungeon and steal an artifact. Escaping with your life is technically optional, although vastly preferable. During the game, you have two goals: retrieve an artifact token and escape the dungeon by returning to the place you started outside the dungeon. You can normally carry only one artifact, and once you've picked one up, you're stuck with it, so choose carefully. Accumulate enough points with your artifact and other loot to beat your opponents and earn the title of the greatest thief in the realm. This artifact isn't worth that many points, but at least it's easy to get to. Make sure to gather more loot and keep pace with your rivals. This artifact is worth a lot more points, but the path to it is long and dangerous. Make sure you can escape the dungeon once you have it. Stealing from the dragon is far from a simple job. You'll have to navigate the ruins, deal with monsters, and acquire valuable treasures. During your turn, you can use the resources you've generated, skill, swords, and boots, to take any of the following actions. You may take each action as many times as you'd like, as long as you have the resources to do so. You can wait and take your actions after you've played all your cards, or you can take the actions between cards if you wish. The actions you can take are as follows. Acquire a new card for your deck. You can use skill to acquire cards with blue banners from the dungeon row, which change throughout the game, or cards with yellow banners from the reserve, which are the same in every game. The skill cost of a card is found in the lower right corner. Once you pay its cost, place the card in your discard pile. It is now part of your deck. Use a device. Devices are cards with purple banners in the dungeon row. Devices can be acquired with skill, but they do not become part of your deck. Instead, you perform the use text listed on the card and then place it into the dungeon discard pile. The skill cost of a device is found in the lower right corner. Fight a monster. Monsters are the cards with red banners in the dungeon row. Instead of acquiring monsters with skill, you fight them using swords. The swords required to defeat monsters are found in the lower right corner. When you fight a monster in the dungeon row, you gain the reward listed in its defeat text. Then, the card is placed in the dungeon discard pile. You may also fight the goblin in reserve. It is not discarded when defeated. Each player may fight it multiple times each turn, earning its reward each time. Buy from the market. The market is a series of spaces where merchants serve those exploring the dungeons. If you are in a market room, you may make a purchase. All items at the market cost 7 gold. Place each item you buy in front of you in your play area. Items available at the market are described in the back of the rulebook. Move through a tunnel. Boots are how you traverse the passages of the dungeon. Each boot lets you move along one tunnel to a new room. Some tunnels have special rules. A tunnel with footprint icons require 2 boots to traverse instead of 1. A tunnel with monster icons deals that much damage to you when you move through it. For each sword you use, you take 1 less damage, but you don't have to use swords to move through a monster tunnel. You cannot use a tunnel with the lock icon unless you have a master key token purchased from the market in your possession. A tunnel shaped like an arrow can only be used in that direction. You normally can't move through it in the opposite direction. When you move into a room, you can take one of the tokens there, minor secrets, major secrets, monkey idols, or artifacts, and put it in front of you. When you take an artifact token, move the dragon marker up 1 space along the rage track. You can only take 1 token when you move into a room. If the room has more than 1 token in it, you must exit and re-enter to pick up another. You can't take an artifact token if you already have one. You don't have to take a token if you don't want to. You might want to pass up 1 artifact to go after a more valuable one elsewhere. When you take a minor or major secret token, reveal it. The secret tokens are described on the back of the rulebook. Whenever you enter a crystal cave room, you become exhausted while wandering its maze-like passages and cannot use any more boots this turn. You may still be able to move by teleporting, described in the advanced maneuvers section of the rulebook, but you won't be able to use boots until your next turn. There are 2 other common effects that your cards may have. Gaining gold. When you gain gold, take it from the bank and put it in front of you. Each gold is worth 1 point when the game ends, but you can use it for other reasons during the game, such as buying items from the market. Clank. Some cards cause you to gain Clank. When this happens, add that many cubes from your personal supply to the Clank area of the game board. Some very sneaky cards cause you to remove Clank. For each negative Clank you get, remove one of your Clank from the Clank area. If you don't have enough Clank there, you can instead avoid adding Clank later in the turn if an effect would make you do so. Any leftover negative Clank is lost when your turn ends. Once you've played all of your cards and used as much of your resources as you want to, your turn ends. Put all the cards you've played back into the discard pile and draw 5 new cards in preparation for your next turn. Any skills, swords, or boots you don't use are wasted, so make them count. The Queen of Dragon Keep is Nyctotraxian, but we just call her Nikki. She's not going to like us sneaking around her lair and taking her things. At the end of every turn, if any of the 6 spaces for cards in the dungeon row are empty, refill them with new cards from the dungeon deck. If any of the cards drawn have the dragon attack symbol, the dragon attacks, but only once no matter how many dragon attack symbols were revealed. To execute an attack, take all of the Clank in the Clank area and put it into the dragon bag. Shake it up and draw a number of cubes from the bag equal to the number shown in the dragon marker current space on the rage track. Each black cube drawn is set aside, but each colored cube represents damage dealt to that player. Undrawn cubes remain in the bag. They might still be drawn out later. The more Clank you make, the more likely the dragon is to notice you and attack. Managing your noise level is key to survival. The dragon's rage increases throughout the game. Every time an artifact is picked up, and whenever a dragon egg, a type of minor secret, is discovered. Advance the dragon marker 1 space along the rage track when this happens. This may cause more cubes to be drawn from the next attack. The more cubes being drawn, the deadlier the game becomes, so tread carefully. Dungeon delving is not without its risk. A master thief must carefully manage their physical state to maximize both profit and survivability. Remember, the 2 greatest obstacles to spending money are being broke and being dead. Each player's health is tracked on a health meter at the bottom of the game board. When you take damage during the game, and you will take damage, place your cubes on the health meter of your color starting from the left. If the damage came from a dragon attack, use the cubes that were pulled from the dragon bag. If you chose to take damage by moving through a monster tunnel without a sword, take cubes from your personal supply. You can't choose to take damage this way if it would completely fill your health meter. Some effects can heal damage you've taken. When you heal, take back a cube of your color from the health meter and put it in your personal supply. You can use it again later for more Clank. If your health meter is ever completely filled, you are knocked out. What happens next depends on how successful you've been so far. If you have retrieved an artifact and escaped the depths area of the dungeon, you are rescued by the townfolk and can count the points you've earned. If you haven't gotten an artifact yet, or if you are still stuck in the depths, then you can't be rescued. You lose the competition, which at this point is the least of your worries. Once you've picked up an artifact, you can also make your way back to the place you started, outside the dungeon. If you make it all the way back before being knocked out, you will receive a mastery token worth an additional 20 points. Remember, if you don't have an artifact yet, you can't leave the dungeon or even be rescued. Good timing is critical in the heist. Getting caught by a dragon is far worse than being pinched by the authorities. But as in all heist, there's nothing wrong with throwing your rivals under the proverbial carriage once you've made your escape. Whenever a player leaves the dungeon or is knocked out, they no longer take normal turns. They add no more Clank to the Clank area. Cards that affect all players don't affect them. If any cubes of their color are drawn from the dragon bag, no damage is dealt. They are treated like black cubes. In addition, the first time any player leaves the dungeon or is knocked out, that player moves their pawn to the first leftmost space of the countdown track near the entrance to the dungeon. On that player's turn, instead of taking a normal turn, they move their pawn forward 1 space on the countdown track and execute that space's effects. Other players who later leave the dungeon or get knocked out do not use the countdown track. On the 2nd through 4th spaces, this causes an instant dragon attack. Additional cubes are drawn from the dragon bag for each of these attacks. 1 extra for the 2nd space, 2 extra for the 3rd, and 3 extra for the 4th. On the 5th space, the dragon instantly knocks out all players still in the dungeon. Once all players are out of the dungeon or knocked out, the game ends. All players who escaped the dungeon, or at least the depths, add up their scores and count the following: the value of their artifacts, points from any other tokens they acquired, points equal to the amount of gold they accumulated, and points awarded by cards in their deck. The top right corner of each card shows the amount they're worth. The player with the most points is the winner and declared the greatest thief in the realm. In the case of a tie, a tied player with the most valuable artifact is the winner.
Thank you for joining Roll to Hit Gaming for another First Look, where we go inside the box, through the rules, and onto the table. If you liked what you saw and want to see more, please click the like and subscribe buttons. Find us on Facebook and Twitter, and join us in the conversation in the comments below.